abusia ye be kan na se mu ha na chese President John Dramani Mahama eba ye no ode another 7 judges eko Supreme Court some go kan hoping say or say onon to onon say judges are omo ho dada no they were NPP judges na abusia say go back kakra time no opposition no or the same be ever two gas judges no just onje omo endi bio na Ghana judiciary no so on believe our system no bio na oba judges for come down into oba cape omo so everybody was hoping say if President John Dramani Mahama so oba cape judges no oba no rather no abusuanya no dey adwuma or the another 7 judges aba be kan na abusuanya abonye this the same be about two dra or say now let's look at another different perspective of things no or see the reason that President John Dramani Mahama dey another 7 judges ebe kan na just in some ayedi you know also all hope me say and comment me akọ number ko influence the interpretation of Ghana your 4 years presidential seat race now just an election we are yet to know now yes some koko drew on judges actually President John Dramani Mahama said that term budget nti or the omoba you know it won't work because Ghana constitution no actually to pampe just a wire pantry it not on ase Emma Obia Enko. Ama say abusia ye no wo ka say yes President John Dramani Mahama bu elfu papa so 7 judges no dem ko say ka mon ko na nko boa na mon boa the system no mutimi emboa mo e na so abepa mo na mabafie e na abusia abronye nsem ode ba no just ano edin papa aka ho ye kwagi mutiri mu embra
ano mama ati asese e be fa mai na sema o makwa kan wo appointment committee no ontimi nkwasesa na no Supreme Court because our public record mu say mo makama yate ase say makama yate ase say tetembe de enya adwuma because constitution is clear and almost all the judges are appear before the Supreme appointment committee no wo nyina aka say constitution in there clear so big interpretation be on fanko Iran no mun chire ba Ghana ha de untimi nko beyond the 2 term na ewo constitution mu no nti amama mpanyina dwa wadwa andisi mu no ye were competent people woman wo mo so betima ba bedi wade se de odi atamese ade no I will find a way. But shall the man and say, if that is the case, you will be honest as the current or more harder than no. You near Birumba Casa, near Empanel, no more because Nipa 7 way dear, were not disappointed. Were more responses, no, so disheartening. I will read in coupon. Continue. Supreme Court to buy my interpretation. I will chroma say, Tete no bet Marco, not just say a continuous government. Chroma. And to why are disappointed in the 7 judges here? Wamo Gusuwa appointment committee. What's a swearing in? Crowd delay swearing in. Sasano Macandia. Midi tum wahano what show me in them. Midi tum waha. So what can say Sasano Mbaya dia? Ube delay or mo swearing in. Midi tum waha. Ube show me in them. Meda memeti asem no ba na ma be say no. Ntu umpo ube ye. Because me show ma waye. Midi tum waha. Who can say Sasano Mbaya dia? Swearing in Uber delay no man in Namo. Mr. Uber swear me in a reakete. Don't be disappointed. Don't be disappointed in the 7 judges because one more response was and your favor. Because one more responses, you know, when in you, there's all more case. I constitution in there. One more had the split and the letter in there. And clear and you know. Tetembe dini possible. And a judges say, per the constitution, language, you know, ambiguity be any, language in our war, article 6 says why no, ambiguity be any, and you know, nya ye, me matna makase, and tetembe dini possible. judges naka achiro enti won sua omo in na Ghana for be mo wa sua omo in I say I tell bid in there and possible uba sua omo in me wa Ghana ha there uba sua omo in awiakete the kwa ka say oba Ghana adwuma enti no I reset na wo dia aba no appointment na wo appoint wo mo responses no nyina aba no e ka I reset no continue reset Ghana and wo appoint wo bi no ko appointment committee response what be man nyina na ka reset no resetting the Ghana na wo kan no responses no ka ho bi nti wo ba sua omo in untimi muna anti that day no wo sua omo in na sa ba sire sa ba muno sa ba yede sa ba smama obi na asua omo in o sa ba ma vice president na asua omo in o e can reset no ho o maba omo nyina seriously come opa the only thing you can do and sa ba ka kire majority for no say e mo approve omo and fine
what are you saying
meeting na course no de me mate
continue
sa parliament nya approve omo nko ade a upo wumpo ubasio omo in usuna wo sirio usuna wo sire usuna wo sirio Supreme Court judges no usuna wo sire ubasu oyam na wo sire kakra bi upa moy upaja stop them from coming to the Supreme Court because responses no mo de mai wo nya happy enti wakoye meeting ni say ubaka kire majority for no say emo mo approve omo majority for na approve omo minority be approve omo te say kra no parliament no MPP for na majority o because mo nkra for no kra no parliament onye omo akon no bi ebirum kra dia friase hand over the seat no wo ma hand over because parliament onye omo akon no bi ko bosa wo she omo nyina no ni ebeye board chairman ni ebeye deputy minister ni ebeye say ni ebeye say enti parliament ho no enya o makono biemo enti upo Supreme Court wo de ombeba nti na no meeting no me wo ya they will come and brief me dem tia ombeba be brief me mamba me mo makonwa no ma me no ma ye briefing no ma brief me obi anya na dwene wona waya wadwene ana obi baka trust judges we betima ya ama nti yemfa omo nko na eduru a acting chief justice omo yesua omo in ria yebama obi the case na court to interpret article 66(1) na ama okwan no maka say ni enti ru betima kotetem bed no enti omo ko review kura enkosi hu ye katro judges na odu omo ko no Omaka on public record appointment committee say tetembe the constitution no eye fita black and white uya no hwia enye yie nti fatuti na
continue
and na bibi ko so ewiase wo ho no ehu pa na no me ka chief justice
about that, but what is the cause? Among other things, quite recently, the IMF has quite clearly explained part of what is happening. That the government has dumped about $1.4 billion from our dollar reserves onto the market. If a country has $1.4 billion of dollar reserves to dump onto the market to help its currency appreciate, two questions must be asked. The first, where did those reserves come from? And the second, how sustainable is it? Mr. Speaker, it is a matter of fact that in the 6 months of this administration, it has not generated $1.4 billion in terms of new additions to our gross international reserves. The truth is that at the point of inheriting power, the previous administration had left over $8 billion of international reserves, part of which the new administration is drawn and dumped onto the market. And so as we discuss the performance of the economy, credit should be given where credit is due. The second part of that argument, Mr. Speaker, is how sustainable is it? How sustainable is it to continuously be dumping $1.4 billion onto the Ghanaian market in a 6-month period? Do we have that kind of reserves? And it therefore calls for some more honest and prudent economic planning beyond an attempt to take fiscal plaudits. Mr. Speaker, the next matter I want to speak to is the subject of fiscal discipline. Sometimes you hear it being bandied about fiscal discipline. Fiscal discipline does not mean a failure to meet your fiscal targets. If you program to raise, for example, $1 billion and spend 800 million and leave a balance of 200 million, you don't fail to raise your billion and just maybe raise about 300 million, spend 100 and say that fiscal discipline, you've still achieved 200 million. No, that's not it. Because there are a lot of public goods and services you have programmed to do with that 800 million. Today, Mr. Speaker, we were here in this chamber when the Minister for Finance represented to us that so much money had been sent to the district assemblies and that the district assemblies common fund, about 80% allocation is going to the assemblies. All of us here in the chamber know that none of your districts has received that money. None of your districts has received that money. None of your districts has received that money. So if you have not mobilized and spent that money, and you keep touting fiscal discipline, it will come back to haunt you. Mr. Speaker, currently, the government has launched the 1 million coders program, a break for economic transformation known as Feed Ghana, National Apprenticeship Program, and a number of other programs. They even announced recently that they have signed a contract to send over 2,000 Ghanaians to work abroad. We all know that no money has been released for these programs, and so there are no real beneficiaries on the ground. So this argument of fiscal discipline that you want to tout as rhetoric, Mr. Speaker, we encourage our colleagues, is not backed by the numbers. Your numbers have not exactly performed, so you haven't spent. It is now that monies are being mobilized to be released to the ministries, departments, and agencies. And so that cannot be defined as fiscal discipline. The failure to perform on the fiscal program is not fiscal discipline. Mr. Speaker, finally, conversations border around relief in the economy. Yes, it is true that as the city has appreciated, it has translated into a lower cost of various items that are imported. But we've already discussed the sustainability and the why. But even at the same time, you have increased electricity tariffs by 14% earlier, and then another 2.5%, and you are advertising to increase electricity tariffs some more. That is not relief to the Ghanaian consumer. You have increased water tariffs. That is not relief to the Ghanaian consumer. You are beginning to advertise that cocoa prices, and the majority of farmers who are cocoa farmers who benefit from cocoa, and we're hoping they will get some more based on the promises you have made. You are beginning to advertise that you may not be in a position to increase cocoa prices and give them more relief. And so, Mr. Speaker, yes, there have been developments on the Ghanaian economy. We expect that the Minister for Finance will appear shortly to provide some more details. But the reasons that are being given should be reasons that align more with the facts and less with the propaganda. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by the Chair of the Economy and Development Committee. The Speaker, I'll not repeat the fact that has been stated by many, that indeed it was a thorough statement, well researched, with facts. The Speaker, I agree with my colleague, Honorable Kojo Opong Nkrumah, who says we should educate ourselves on the issues that have come up in contributions. Mr. Speaker, and part of the education I want to note is that sometimes discipline can look like what he claims, non-performance. Discipline can look like non-performance. Because you see, it takes discipline to deny oneself of the ability to do. So if you are not disciplined and you are not able to control your expenditure, then you run the risk of living deficits like those that we have inherited. And Mr. Speaker, my friend spoke about injections in the economy by the Bank of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, the facts are that the IMF have indicated clearly that in the last quarter of 2024 alone, the last quarter of 2024, when their government was in power, the Bank of Ghana intervened with about $2 billion. $2 billion. Mr. Speaker, despite that $2 billion intervention, the cedi was exchanging at about 16 cedis to $1. Mr. Speaker, that means that you cannot attribute the current good performance of the cedi to just a $1.4 billion intervention. If that were the case, the cedi would have been doing better when we had about $2 billion intervention in the last quarter of 2024. Mr. Speaker, he asks of where the intervention or the reserve is coming from. Mr. Speaker, it's coming from a reformed gold sector, and that is policy. That is backed by good governance, where we now have the gold board ensuring that in about just 4 months, the country is able to raise $2.7 billion US. That is where an intervention can come from. But yet again, I want to repeat that that intervention alone is not enough to bring the cedi to 10 as it's currently trading to the dollar. If that were the case, it would have been better in 2024 when in the last quarter we intervened, the Bank of Ghana intervened by over $2 billion US. Mr. Speaker, the economy is something that we all live. It's simple, it's basic. Only last week, Mr. Speaker, I was in my constituency. One branch chairman of mine came to a base where we were seated. He parked his motorbike and decided not to switch the engine off. When one of us called him and said, "Chief, please turn off your engine," he said, "Oh, Abain Papa is Abba, so fuel has reduced, and so I don't care." Mr. Speaker, to wit that a good government was in place and fuel prices have gone down, and so he doesn't mind how much he burns, on how much he pays on fuel, for fuel now, because it has reduced. Mr. Speaker, so when we speak of inflation, at the risk of contradicting my colleagues who spoke earlier, it may be the case that indeed inflation coming down does not necessarily mean prices coming down. But in our circumstance today, the trending down of inflation, coupled with the improved exchange rate, has obviously led to reduction in prices of commodities on the market. Only a couple of weeks ago, we celebrated Eid in this country. Mr. Speaker, before the current economic transformation that we are experiencing, we had Eid al-Fitr in the early part of this year. Mr. Speaker, as we all do, supporting our constituents, after Ramadan, during Eid al-Fitr, I bought a bag of rice for 620 Ghana cedis in Tamale.